Do you ever find yourself nodding along to requests you don't really want to fulfill, just to avoid an awkward moment? Maybe you agree to another coffee meeting even though your week is already overflowing, or you say yes when someone asks for your time, even though every fiber of your being screams no. It feels polite, even altruistic, but deep down you know it leaves you drained, guilty, and a little resentful. What if I told you that learning to say no isn't rude or unkind? In fact, it rewires your brain, boosts your self-worth, and transforms your life. First, let's understand why no feels so hard. In social situations, our brains are wired to seek approval. Centuries of living in tight-knit communities built a neural pathway that rewards cooperation and punishes exclusion. When you refuse someone, those old circuits light up with anxiety signals, the same fight or flight chemicals that warn you of danger. But modern science shows that shifting from automatic acquiescence to intentional refusal can actually strengthen your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making and self-control. Think of it like training a muscle. Every time you say no to a request that undermines your priorities, you flex your mental strength and expand your capacity for autonomy. Now, imagine your mind as a workshop. Saying yes indiscriminately clutters your workspace with half-finished tasks and obligations that aren't truly yours, making it hard to focus on what really matters. Conversely, no acts like a filter, clearing out the noise so you can channel your energy where it counts, whether that's deep work, meaningful relationships, or simply carving out time for rest. Over time, this practice rewires not only your habits but your sense of self-respect. You begin to see your own needs as valid requests, deserving of consideration and protection. In this video, we'll explore 3 key insights. First, the neuroscience of refusal, how no reshapes neural pathways and enhances self-regulation. Second, the psychology behind social guilt, why we feel obligated to agree and how to reframe no as kindness to ourselves and others. Third, actionable strategies you can start using today. Simple phrases, boundary-setting blueprints, and mental rehearsals that make saying no feel natural, not awkward. By the end, you'll have a toolkit for transforming your no from a moment of tension into a practice of self-care and empowerment. Let's unlock the power of refusal together. Your brain treats every request like a crossroads where 2 teams compete. The fast emotional system that wants instant social harmony and the slow logical system that weighs long-term benefits. Deep in your skull, the prefrontal cortex acts like a CEO, evaluating options and curbing impulses, while the limbic system buzzes like a crowd craving approval. When you default to yes without thought, you rely on the limbic system's impulse highway, flooding your brain with dopamine hits from social approval, but at the cost of depleting your cognitive control reserves. Saying no, on the other hand, fires up the prefrontal cortex, strengthening neural pathways much like lifting weights builds muscle. Each refusal is a rep that increases your self-regulation over time. Think of it as upgrading from impulse-driven mode to intentional mode. Every time you pause to consider your priorities before agreeing, you're teaching your brain that your needs matter too. Neuroplasticity research shows that those who regularly practice inhibition, even in small everyday choices, develop thicker prefrontal cortex regions and improved executive function, meaning you can manage stress better and make clearer decisions under pressure. At the same time, saying no rewires your basal ganglia, the habit center, to recognize that boundary setting is a rewarding behavior, reducing the automatic urge to comply. In essence, you transform no from a social faux pas into a tool that sculpts your brain toward greater autonomy and focus, laying the neurological foundation for the next step, overcoming the guilt and social anxiety that often follow refusal. When you shrink from saying no, it's often because your brain's social alarm system, rooted in our evolutionary need to belong, sounds a warning siren at the mere thought of disappointing someone. That alarm is fueled by guilt, which operates like an internal seatbelt. It locks you into choices you don't really want, all in the name of avoiding social friction. You feel obligated because deep down you equate refusal with rejection, and rejection triggers the same ancient threat signals as physical danger. But what if we reframe no not as a door slammed on others, but as a gift of honesty, to yourself and to them? Imagine you're a messenger carrying fragile cargo. Overloading your bag with every request means some packages will crack under pressure. By learning to offload what you can't truly carry, you're preserving the integrity of your commitments and ensuring the promises you do make arrive intact. Psychologists call this self-compassionate boundary setting, and it transforms guilt from a prison into a compass, guiding you toward choices aligned with your true priorities. When you explain a refusal with empathy, "I wish I could help, but I need to focus on X right now," you acknowledge the other person's need while honoring your own limits, and you model healthy communication. In Stoic terms, it's the difference between external obligations that harm your inner tranquility and chosen duties that reinforce your self-respect. Understanding guilt as both a warning and a teacher lets you replace automatic compliance with mindful discernment, turning each no into an act of kindness that preserves your energy and nurtures genuine, sustainable connections. Now let's build your no toolkit with 4 practical strategies you can start using today. First, practice the pause phrase proceed technique. When faced with a request, pause for 3 seconds. Offer a neutral phrase like, "Let me think about that," and then proceed with your answer. This brief pause engages your prefrontal cortex, giving you just enough space to weigh your priorities. Second, use the compassionate boundary formula. "I appreciate you thinking of me and I'm honored by your request, but I need to focus on your priority right now." This template acknowledges the other person's need while clearly stating your own, reducing guilt on both sides. Third, set an implementation intention. Write down, "If X asks me to do Y, I will say no and offer Z." For example, if my colleague asks me to join another project, I will say no and suggest they contact our team lead. By encoding your no in advance, you automate the decision and avoid the rush of guilt. Fourth, engage in mental rehearsal. Visualize a recent situation where you wished you'd said no, then replay it in your mind, this time delivering the boundary statement confidently and calmly. This simple mental exercise strengthens the neural pathways for refusal, making the real moment feel familiar rather than frightening. Finally, create a no list, a quick reference of things you've already decided not to do, from attending extra meetings to volunteering tasks outside your goals. Review it weekly to reinforce your values and remind yourself that every no is progress toward the life you genuinely want. By combining pause phrase proceed, compassionate boundary statements, implementation intentions, mental rehearsal, and a no list, you transform no from a moment of stress into a skillful practice that sharpens your focus, preserves your energy, and honors your commitments. As you begin to use these techniques, you'll notice subtle shifts in your daily life. Picture this. It's Monday morning, and your inbox pings with a request to join an ad hoc committee that doesn't align with your priorities. Instead of replying instantly, you pause, breathe, and mentally activate your pause phrase proceed habit. You respond, "Let me check my schedule and get back to you," giving yourself time to consult your no list. You realize that accepting would derail your main project, so you use the compassionate boundary formula. "I appreciate you thinking of me, but I need to focus on Project X this week. Perhaps Jane would be a good fit." You notice that neither the requester's tone nor your own peace of mind suffers. In fact, you respect yourself more for being clear. Over the next few days, you track these moments in a boundary journal, noting how many yeses you turned into nos, the emotional relief you felt, and tasks you completed instead. This feedback loop reinforces your brain's reward circuits, making future refusals easier and less guilt-ridden. Let's ground this with another metaphor. Imagine your time and energy as water in a series of connected vessels. Every obligation you agree to pours water into each vessel, risking overflow and loss. By saying no mindfully, you close the taps on low-priority demands, ensuring the water level stays within the vessel meant for your key goals: creative work, meaningful relationships, and self-care. As those vessels fill steadily and no longer leak, you gain clarity on what truly deserves your resources. Of course, the journey won't be flawless. You might still hesitate or feel a twinge of guilt the first few times. That's normal. Remember, self-compassionate boundary setting is itself a practice, and your brain is simply rewiring. Celebrate small victories. Every time you stand firm without resentment, you're strengthening the pathways of autonomy and respect. Over weeks, you'll find that saying no becomes as natural as saying yes used to be. Your stress levels drop, your focus sharpens, and people begin to treat your time with greater respect because you've signaled that your commitments are not negotiable whims, but chosen priorities. By transforming no from a moment of contraction into a deliberate act of self-care, you reclaim your mental bandwidth, deepen your relationships through honest communication, and cultivate a stronger, more resilient mind. Now that you've seen how no rewires your brain, tames guilt and protects your focus, it's time to embrace refusal as a daily practice, a powerful act of self-care that strengthens your autonomy and honors your deepest priorities. Remember, every pause, boundary phrase, and pre-planned refusal is a deliberate choice to invest in the life you truly want, not a rejection of those around you, but a commitment to your own well-being. As you integrate these techniques, pause phrase, proceed, compassionate boundaries, implementation intentions, mental rehearsal, and your no list, you'll find your mental workshop clearing out clutter, leaving only the tasks and relationships that matter. Saying no won't always feel effortless at first, but with each confident boundary you set, you're sculpting a mind that values honesty and respect over automatic compliance. If you're ready to keep sharpening your toolkit for better thinking, tap that like button, share this video with someone who needs permission to refuse, and subscribe to Mind Unlocked for more insights and practical strategies to help you think, feel, and live with clarity.